announcement just before you came in, Bruce Katz of Brookings referred to our current transportation system as broke and broken. And as someone who's been intimately involved with making policy in this area and also has to keep an eye on the ballot box, how do you bring the public along, keep them in the decision making, but also do what you got to do to get things done?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to participate. I would have been here on time, but it's hell trying to get around the Twin Cities and support the mayor on his light rail proposal. But, well, I heard a little bit of Bruce's presentation. And Bruce is right. The structure is right now dysfunctional. The policy is dysfunctional. And I have a neat catbird seat with Jim Oberstar. I couldn't come without mentioning Jim, and he's out of town this week. That's where I should be too, with all these delegates and anarchists and everybody else. But
sometimes they're the same.
Yeah. And joking, about it being hell trying to get around the Twin Cities. It's hell trying to get around any city in America today, from sea to shining sea. We're just at a stall in congestion, and the thing that Bruce mentioned is we haven't had a good vision. The last good vision was by a conservative Republican president, David Eisenhower, who sent Richard Nixon to Lake George for the Governors Association meeting in August of 1954. He proposed a $500 billion federal highway system for one mode, interstate system, when the federal budget was $78 billion. That's a $500 billion to 78. That's the kind of vision I think you need. And some people think, I've been smoking the funny weed, hanging around with college students when I propose a $1.5 trillion federal highway bill. But I didn't pick that number out of the sky. I think that's the number that the American Society of Civil Engineers did in assessing the infrastructure needs over a 5-year period. And we can't just build our infrastructure for just highways. It has to have, anyone who looks at this, we've got to have a host of alternatives and what's cost effective, what doesn't destroy our communities and the environment, and also doesn't keep us dependent on energy. So I proposed, after looking at this and I've been on the committee for 16 years, not as long as Jim, that we first of all adopt a comprehensive national strategic transportation infrastructure plan. I come from the private sector. You got to have a plan. You're going to build a building, you're going to do a project, you got to have a plan. Then we've got to define the policy of how we participate. The mayor sometimes doesn't have a clue as to what the federal government will do, or we're a very unreliable partner, and we haven't decided what our policy is in participation with the state governments and local governments. So you define that first. The second thing is, we've heard others mention that the process for financing this, Senator Gorton to mention it, is broken. And we have got to do something about fixing that. It's based on per gallon of gasoline. Even if you increase the gasoline tax by $5 a gallon and nobody uses gasoline, the system isn't going to work. So we've got to redefine how we finance it. My administration, I've said publicly, has been myopic about using some of the tools that we should be promoting. And that's a host of creative infrastructure financing tools that the private sector does all the time. Bonding, we have great capacity, government guarantees. We have a host of creative ways to finance projects that no one else can do, not to mention public-private partnerships. Then the last part of what I'm proposing for next year, as we undertake a comprehensive look in a new bill. The current bill we're working under expires, the 5-year bill expires about a year from this month. So we've got to get going on this. But the last part of that, and I took this message out to the bridge today, and again, we remembered the tragedy and the lives lost on the I-35 bridge collapse, but the replacement project, from that tragedy, we can learn a lot. And the goal there was to replace that in 437 days. And if we can define our policy, we have a way to finance, and then we can speed up the process. I held up the 437 sign today at the bridge, and that should be our goal for doing most projects in the future that aren't changing, again, the landscape or making a bigger impact on the environment. But defining what we want to do, who we're going to do it with, how we do it, financing it, and then speeding up the process. So that's my 2 cents worth.